MGM is working on not one, but two pilots for Stargate's The Return, and I know how one of them starts. Welcome to SciTrek, your sci-fi TV and movie channel. So if you're a regular SciTrekker, you'll know that I've been telling you for a couple of months now that MGM don't just have one pilot they're working on, the one that was written by Brad Wright that we've been knowing about for a while, but actually two. They've actually been preparing storyboards for both of these pilots and concept art. Now obviously we know about Brad Wright's. He's told us about it repeatedly times on his podcast, and we've known about it for a couple of years now. But this second pilot is a bit of a mystery. We don't really know who wrote it, we don't know where it came from. It seemed to just appear sometime around January and February last year, and MGM started kicking it around the office. Now, I have heard rumours that this was actually potentially written by Dean Devlin, and that actually Dean Devlin talked in a Gateworld podcast a little over 2 years ago about how he was potentially going to produce a script for MGM, and this was going to be something that rivaled the Brad Wright script. So, potentially this is that. I'm not sure about this though, because obviously Dean Devlin has now got a big other project with the Sci-Fi Network, but if MGM have this script, and it's maybe something that they'd like Brad Wright to work on, there is a possibility that this is that script, that Dean Devlin script. So, why would they be working on two projects? As a quick recap here, basically, Brad Wright's project is not massively popular with Amazon. They don't think it's got a big enough scope to it. They don't think it's adventurous enough. So they have been kicking around the idea of maybe going in a different direction. Now I actually have sources, as I've said before, that work in and around MGM. They've been telling me this about Amazon's intentions, but they've also been telling me that Amazon seem to still want to work with Brad. They don't want to annoy the fans by kicking the beloved showrunner out and going in a completely new direction. They want to still honour the original series. So perhaps this plan of a second script is just something that they'd want Brad Wright to consider and maybe work on. I actually am hoping that their idea is that they're basically going to create a hybrid of both pilots, and that's what we're eventually going to see on our screens. But as I said at the start, I actually know what happens in the first 5 minutes or so of this mysterious new script, and I am going to tell you. So big warning here, this is potentially spoilers, because this actually might be the episode they end up making. So if you don't want to know how the beginnings of this new series might go, and you want to wait until it's on your TV screens in front of you, then please turn off now, don't watch anymore. But if you are interested, I can promise you this is just a bit of a tease, because I don't want to ruin it for you, and actually to be fair, I don't want to ruin it for myself. So even though I was offered a bit more information from my source at MGM, I declined it. This is enough for me. So what do we know? Okay, I'm going to run through the first 5 minutes or so here for you, and it does give us really a nice few little teaser bits, and we'll talk about it as we go. So initially, it opens on an image of the gate, and that image opens up to a much larger structure than the gate is currently in. So we're outside of Cheyenne Mountain straight away. In the images and the concept art that my friend at MGM has seen, it's described as a very large glass and steel structure. It looks like it's designed for large numbers of people to potentially walk in and out of the Stargate. So again, this hints at that the Stargate is potentially an open secret now. We're moving large numbers of people through the gate nowadays, and maybe the whole world knows about it. So there is a big panning shot, we see the whole structure, and then it comes back to the gate. Now the gate lights up or has some sort of static electricity or something. On the images I've seen, it looks like lightning dancing around. And then a being appears. Now it seems that the gate doesn't open. We don't see the big flash of the event horizon. We don't see all the lights light up. We don't see any of the spinning. It's just this energy, and then a being appears. Now the person is dressed reasonably normally. He doesn't look like anything out of the ordinary from the concept art I've seen. But alarms immediately go off and soldiers run in. There's also talk about some sort of automated defense system being activated. As soon as the soldiers run in, the being puts his hands up and surrenders and asks for Daniel Jackson. Now, that's really important because basically it means Michael Shanks is coming back. Now, we know from interviews with Brad Wright that Brad Wright has already basically asked him to come back and hoped that he would maybe even direct. But this kind of confirms that regardless of which script and which pilot we get to see in the end, MGM are considering or thinking very strongly about Michael Shanks returning either way. So then, in the next scene, Daniel Jackson walks in. He speaks to a soldier. They talk about how there was no energy readings. He talks about how the gate didn't activate and that they don't know how he got into the building. They talk about aura defenses and there doesn't seem to be any energy field coming off him. Daniel, though, then hears a woman's voice in his head, a woman's voice that he seems to recognise. Please get in the comments and tell me who you think that female voice might be. I think I've got a pretty good idea, but the last time we saw her, she was in a bit of a battle to the death with Anubis, but maybe she's come back. But anyway, the voice tells him, be worried. It's a warning. And she says, don't trust him. The being smiles and basically says hello to Daniel. End scene, the opening credits roll. Now I'm kind of hoping it's da-na-na, and then, like the proper SG-1 music, but let's see what happens. When it comes back, the being, this person, he's drawn as a male in the concept art apparently and the storyboarding, but that's not really 100% clear. And hey, they could go either way with that when they come to casting. But they're sat in basically an interrogation room over each other from a metal guest. Daniel sat one side and the being on the other. Daniel's asking him, where did you come from? How did you get here? Just sort of like normal questions like that. The whole time, Daniel, this voice is going in his head. It's telling him, don't trust him. Don't believe a word he says. Danger, 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 Daniel Jackson, danger, Daniel Jackson. And that sort of thing. Daniel apparently says to the being, General Carter tells me that there is no energy signature. There was no beaming technology. So how did you get into the building? Again, confirming that they're at least considering bringing Samantha Carter back into the series. The being doesn't really answer any of these questions. He just keeps smiling and being very vague. The voice continues in Daniel Jackson's head. But then at one point the voice in Daniel's head says, why is he here? The being then answers. And he says very simply, I am here to regain our rightful place. That is as far as I wanted to go, and I don't know anything else that's happened. I love how Daniel can hear the voice in his head, the warning, and then I love how the being, this mysterious figure, answers the question. Now, in my last video, I did talk about how there are plans for the Annunaki to be the main villain in this series. And I talked about how maybe the Annunaki could be actually of an ascended being. Now, the Annunaki, you have to go back and watch the video, of course. I'll have a link in the description. They are actually part of an ancient aliens theory. They're sometimes described as the first gods. Now, if this being is a member of the Annunaki, perhaps he was an ascended being. Perhaps the reason why he can hear Daniel Jackson's voice warnings in his head is because that is an ancient whispering to him, and that this Annunaki, this new villain, can actually hear the voice as well. Now, if that's true, that's really exciting because this villain would actually be potentially some sort of ascended being. And if they are back to regain what they once had, well, according to the story of the Anunnaki, what they once had was complete command over the human species. We were literally their slaves. So what do you think? Do you think that this opening sequence of a new series is potentially exciting? Is it something that you'd want to see? Can you see where they could go with this storyline? Or do you just want to see Brad Wright's version and you're not interested in any of this competition between two pilots? Please let me know. Or actually, are you with me? Are you thinking that I'm not overly excited by what I'm hearing about Brad Wright's basically Stargate Academy series, and I would like him to think a lot bigger, like Amazon apparently telling him to do, and that maybe this second script isn't something they're ever going to produce, but they want to maybe create a hybrid between what Brad Wright is thinking and this other idea, to create something that's really exciting and of a much bigger scope than Brad Wright was originally thinking. Get into the comments, tell me which one of those three options you would actually prefer. And if you are new to the channel, please like, subscribe, hit that bell notification, hit all the buttony things, and you can become a fully fledged SciTrekker and support the channel. Please hit the join button. As always guys, please stay safe. I'll see you next time.